We've just been taking a call and reading out messages about the Katherine Birbalsingh and the Michaela Community School winning that High Court judgment yesterday. Hails a victory for common sense by, well, anyone with common sense, after a Muslim pupil asked to have a prayer ban overturned so they could actually pray a Muslim prayer ritual in the middle of the playground along with other children in the middle of the day. Well, let's talk about this right now with Aaqil Ahmed, who is the former head of religion at the BBC. Good morning to you.
Morning.
Good morning, thanks. What do you make of this High Court decision? I think it was a victory for common sense and head teachers getting the final say. What do you say?
Well, I think the point that you made is quite right, which is obviously people that there was a policy of secularism in the school, and people signed up to that. So when they went to that school, there's an understanding of what that school entails and actually what their policies are. So I think in this particular instance, I think it's very difficult for it to be anything else. Although I suppose the judgment also talked about that this would be discriminatory to the Muslim pupils as well. So what I think what it's done is actually, you're right, yeah, you could argue him from one particular constituency. It's a kind of like a victory for common sense. I think it's a shame that these things get so far down the line. I mean, how much of a compromise could have been made at some point? And I think there are bigger questions, bigger conversations about this beyond this one particular school, because I think this is quite a specific school of a specific headmistress, which is doing really well and has a particular kind of ethos. And I think you can't apply this to all other schools as well.
I wish we could, because I wish all schools had the same ethos and did as well by the children, particularly children from disadvantaged backgrounds. Yeah. I'm always fascinated by people who think there's a compromise in this. It's like people who want to have a compromise on the death penalty. Let's have a compromise on abortion. Let's have a compromise on whether or not a kid can or cannot pray in the middle of the school playground in the middle of the school day. You either can or you can't. Who gets to have the say? Is it the head teacher or is it the pupil? It's just a no-brainer for me. What is the compromise?
No, I think the headmaster, whatever, they have to have that. The board of governors, the school, the LEA, or whatever, depending on how the particular school is structured, has to have. Yeah. You have to have guidelines.
So what's the compromise? You say people could have got around the table, and a previous caller said, what is the compromise?
Well, this is just as a wider point. The compromise could be, if depending on what the numbers were, and if you're talking, remember initially this kicked off because you had people praying in the playground in the winter on their blazers. It was probably a bit of a bad look. And at that time, a conversation then about maybe allocating a room at lunchtime.
There wasn't a room. No, that was one of the key points they made. We don't have a room. That the school is absolutely tiny. They don't have the facilities. There wasn't.
That's why I'm saying this particular school. I know the location of that school as well. I think this particular school isn't the perfect example because of all of the things around it. Yeah. But as a general point, we have to have. I mean, look, there's a bigger point here, which is, as Katherine says in the statement, 50% of this school population is Muslim. Yeah, and
it's growing.
And it's growing.
But this is the thing. Why did pupils who've been at that school for a number of years and all the people it's been open not feel the need to pray? Suddenly they felt the need to pray, and suddenly this was a battle. Again, a lot of people will suspect, it's like a lot of what's going on at the moment, is we're talking about a sort of a political ideology and a sort of a standing up, an assertion, as opposed to having one's religion. Now, I would feel the same way whether it was Catholic kids or Jewish kids or Muslims, Sikh. If you've gone to a secular school, we have, in my view, far too many faith schools. I would have 0 faith schools in this country. I'm with France. I don't think that
you're talking to the converted on that one.
Should have anything to. You want to go to church, want to go to synagogue, want to go to mosque. That's great. Schools should be about bringing children together, which is what Michaela School is all about. Not focusing on a divide. You're not a Muslim kid. You're not a Catholic kid. You're all just pupils at this school. And it seems to me that that case undermined it. What do you think about the legal aid? I mean, should a mum have had legal aid for that case?
I don't know enough about whether or not the legal aid was. I don't know the rules and regulations on legal aid now. I've got to be honest with you, because from friends who are actually lawyers, it's all over the place, and it's not what it was before. So I don't have an opinion on that. It does seem a bit strange, but that's not for me to comment on. I think the bigger thing we need to address is, like I said, this is a specific school. What happens, though, when you've got people, and, not every single person, I think we've got to be careful as well. It was a young schoolgirl who had this idea, and she wanted to complain. If an individual wants to do something, they have to be allowed to do it, whether it's right or wrong. And actually, the law was found against her. So the fact of the matter is she had to go through the process. But there is a bigger issue here, which will have to. Well, no, but what I meant was she went through the process and actually
but we
accepted
paid
the
for it. That's
results
what
of
bothers a lot of my audience. Aaqil Ahmed, really appreciate you joining us. Thank you very much. Former head of religion at the BBC. Quick word from Benedict Spence.
I think actually that last point is rather good actually, because children need to learn that you don't just get your way all the time. So actually, yes, whilst the legal aid bill, ridiculous, shouldn't have gone this far, actually I don't think there's anything wrong with trying and complaining and trying to change things, but actually getting the answer that is no, you don't just get to push your way. I think that's an important lesson that children do need to learn.
Paul could have just accepted it sooner when the head teacher said it.
If they're not going to accept it, they need to be told no via several different routes.
Yeah, maybe
I know it's
parents should start saying no to their kids. I know, mind-blowing idea, might catch on again one day.